What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fitness Oracle. Today, we've got a special episode for you guys to dig your teeth into. It's quite a long one, this one. Today, we sat down with Dr. Jordanna Clarefield-Henry from Health Haven Clinic. She specializes in chiropractic. She's a chiropractic doctor, and she specializes in helping people not just heal only their physical injuries, but also heals their minds in the process. And we go into a lot of deep and interesting topics when it came to you know traditional Chinese medicine, to chiropractic uh, practices, and we talked about the health and wellness aspect of everything. We talked about how chiropractic practices and how it relates to meridians. We talked about the mind-body connection. We talked about the importance of community, and we talked about so much more. I mean, it took a while for me to edit this because there was just so much golden nuggets as usual to pick through, and I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode. Just before we get you into the episode, I just want to ask you guys if you guys are okay with the yo-yo effects of diets that just simply don't work. If you're not, we have created a foolproof 12-week system that will not only help you shed the weight that you've gained over COVID, but we give you that blueprint. We give you a specific blueprint so that you can follow, and will help you move into a slimmer looking you and help you keep it off. Best part is that we focus so heavily on the mindset aspect of your transformation that will help you love the body that you're going to get. And this is the biggest part that most trainers don't do. And this is what separates us from everyone else, is this whole heavy mindset aspect. So what do you get? You get a 12-week workout guide. You get a proven nutritional guideline. You get the full master key system, one-on-one support with me, a community of others that are there to support you and cheer you on, and so much more. So don't wait anymore. Don't wait any longer. Stop making excuses. Take control of the one thing that you can control, yourself, and sign up to the 12-week Fat Sizzler. Click the link below in the show notes, and let's have a talk. You have nothing to lose, and you have everything to gain. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode. And as always, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing with the Fitness Oracle, helping improve men's mental health. Hit the bell to be notified when we release a new episode. And if you do know somebody who is suffering from mental health issues, please share this with them, as it may help them find a pathway to better themselves and get out of whatever funk that they're in. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, please give us a 5-star rating, as that will help us improve our status and our ratings and all the good stuff, and be exposed to more people so that it can also help them. And also, please, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, please leave us a review. Good or bad, doesn't make a difference. We're good with everything. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the show, and I will see you guys with the next episode when we release it on Sunday.
There's two scenarios. One is I didn't do my job 100% there. We really have to give patients a good idea of how long it might take to recover, and explain healing, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go see that physio and they're going to do that magical tweak and then I'm going to be better. Or same thing, I'm going to go to the chiropractor, we're going to get that one adjustment and voila, I'm better. But it doesn't usually work like that. If your pain is interrupting your sleep, then medicate the pain, put the Band-Aid on, take care of that pain, because the sleep is far more important than taking a drug for a couple of days. That you, if you don't want to put chemicals in your body, and there's a lot of people out there who like want to be all natural and they don't feel comfortable putting some of those chemicals in their body. But I always tell people, if you're going to lose out on sleep, I'd rather you take your medicine for a couple days, take that Advil or something even stronger, whatever, for a couple days to get the sleep in, because your body's going to heal better what if it can sleep, right? All friction, so a joint is where two bones come together. Okay. So people mistaken that noise, that cracking noise, they think those are bones banging against each other. Okay. And when the idea of bones banging against each other creates friction, of course you're going to wear and tear them and you're going to create arthritis. But that's not what cracking is. First of all, it's the illusion, because that sound, and I don't know why the universe or God or whatever, our creator of whomever he or she may be, or it may be, I don't know why they chose that noise, because it freaks people out. In fact, it freaks me out. I hate when people crack their knuckles. I'm like, oh, stop it. But I'm okay when I crack other people's backs and make noises.
Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you, with real stories just like yours. And this is one of their stories. I am your host, John Katsavos. My guest today is Dr. Jordanna Clarefield-Henry from Health Haven Clinic. Dr. Jordanna has been a chiropractor for 16 years. In March 2020, she opened her dream multidisciplinary practice in Toronto called Health Haven. She's a mother of two beautiful boys with a husband, Sean, Cooper, and Hudson. Those are the two boys. She loves to sing and dance with a wonderful group of people. She puts on a show once or twice a year to raise money for great causes like cancer research and mental health. She loves helping people not only in their physical injuries, but also heal their minds. Dr. Jordanna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. You're the first chiropractor that I've had on this show, so welcome.
Well, fantastic. Good.
So how is, I know we opened up yesterday. The time of the recording of this is Saturday. We opened up on Friday, July 16th. So how's opening up going?
Well, I mean, as a registered healthcare practitioners, which chiropractic is part of that, have been allowed to be open since after the initial first 3 months shut down. So like we were shut down. I basically opened my clinic March 1st, 2020, and we were shut down March 14th, 2020. So I had 2 weeks and then we had to shut down, and we were basically shut down until mid-June. They didn't give us much notice though, so it took me a few weeks to get stuff together and make sure everything was safe and set up for proper COVID protocols. So we really opened July 2020, and we have been allowed to be open since, with proper PPE and making sure the schedule was such that there's never too many people, so we can maintain social distancing and all that. So I've actually been very lucky that we've been able to be open. So the more opening up that happened yesterday, I think just maybe allows people to feel a lot more comfortable. We still have a lot of comfort level to get through, I think.
Yeah.
But it's nice that I have two gyms pretty much right across the street from the clinic, and they can see in. So I'm really excited that there's going to be people in those places who are doing things that may be getting injuries and needing help, so that we're right there and they can see us.
That's awesome. It's great to hear that you weren't closed the second time around. I know a lot of people lost a lot because of that second shutdown.
Sure. There was so there are a few healthcare positions out there, like osteopaths and a few different kinds of massage that are not registered. And so those people really were shut down. So I had one or two in my clinic that were not allowed to practice until yesterday. So that's good. We have a therapeutic yoga teacher who does like personalized yoga for injury prevention, and so she was not allowed to practice this entire time because it's a new version and not registered under the Healthcare Practitioners Act. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Some of us were allowed, but I was allowed, which is good. And of course, there was a huge impact on business, and a lot of people were not comfortable coming in unless they were in a lot of pain, and the pain outweighed their fear. So, yeah.
Well, it's always good. Like I said, like it's always good that we are open again, which is great. And now that we are open, people are going to start needing to find different forms of healing for themselves. So I was doing a little digging this morning on your website, and you got a lot of great blog posts, and we're hoping to dig into a little bit, a couple of them. One was how does somebody find the right wellness practitioner? So how does somebody go about that? Because it's like it seems like a tsunami of wellness practitioners out there.
There are so many options out there. Um, I mean, I often ask my patients that, like, what brought you to me? Um, I have been in business for 16 years personally, like multiple different locations, but most people, I think at this point in my career, find me through referral. So their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, their best friend will say, oh, I see this person and she's helped me so much with what XYZ, and you should try her out. So, I mean, when you get to that point, that's the best way to find your healthcare practitioners, to ask the people that who've had similar experiences to you. Another great way to do it, I mean, um, first of all, I think picking a clinic like my clinic, or I mean, there's a million out there in North America. The multidisciplinary clinic is a great place to go, because you can maybe you've heard of, like, physiotherapy is usually, I think, where people go first when they need some kind of physical help, because that's just the most well known and understood practice. And I think chiropractic would be second after that. But then there's so many other things, osteopaths and acupuncturists and uh, very specialized physios and specialized chiros. So, like, to find a clinic where you have access to multiple practitioners. That way, when you try somebody, and if it doesn't work for you, then you can, sort of move on to someone else. And even with the help of that healthcare practitioner saying, okay, well, this worked. Let's say it got me 50% better, but now I don't know what to do. And it seems to have stalled out. Then, like, I'll know the people working in the clinic with me. And so I can say, oh, you know what? Acupuncture is really great at this one thing that you're lacking here. So let's try that for a while. And then so that's a good way. Um, I think if you're going to go to your medical doctor or general practitioner, sometimes they've got lots of referral people, but I suggest, like, if you have some kind of physical type injury, to get to a more specific doctor, like to go to a sports injury medicine specialist in there, because they usually have lots of different practitioners working with them and connected to them, and they might also know better, because our GPs are just, they take care of so much stuff that they have like such a wide broad knowledge. They don't really have the skills to diagnose specific, like, things that you're going to see hands-on practitioners for. So their answer is usually, here's, take some medicine and go see a physio. But yeah, so that's good. And then, yeah, of course, research online is also helpful too. These days, there's so much information there.
Yeah, there is. Um,
And then the other thing I really find too is when you see like a chiropractor, I mean, there's so many different styles of chiropractic out there. Sorry, my son just walked in the door. There's so many different styles of chiropractors and what they treat and what they specialize in, that if you go to see one and it's not your cup of tea, that person, their personality doesn't match, or how they treated you is not, a lot of people sort of go, oh, well, then chiropractic isn't good for me. But I don't think that's the right mind space to be in, right? If you go to a dentist and you don't like your dentist, you don't just stop going to the dentist for the rest of your life, right? So it's really good to try other practitioners, like say another chiropractor that might have a different style from what the one you saw was, and try different ones. Or like, if you have a more sports injury related issue, then you want to maybe go to a clinic that specializes in treating people with sports injuries, or versus if you're looking for care when you're pregnant, which is something I specialize in. So you want to see a chiropractor who has lots of experience in that and can explain to you, okay, well, why would I see a chiropractor when I'm pregnant? Because there's lots of good reasons to do that. Right. So yeah, I think not giving up and advocating for yourself. And also, yeah, vocalizing is very important. A lot of people get really nervous to tell a practitioner they didn't like what they did. And I try and communicate very clearly. If there was something you didn't like about what I did, please let me know. Because I have like 15 different ways of treating that area of the body. So don't just take what I give you and then that's it. If you didn't have a good experience, let me know, because I could probably figure out a way to treat you in a way that will be more, make you more happy, I guess, or feel better.
do you find that like with people that quit on the practitioner, do you find that it's like they give up too early?
Yes. There is, uh, there's two ways that happens. One is, I'll just take from personal experience. So what I find is there's two scenarios. One is I didn't do my job 100% there. We really have to give patients a good idea of how long it might take to recover and explain healing, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go see that physio and they're going to do that magical tweak and then I'm going to be better. Or same thing, I'm going to go to the chiropractor, we're going to get that one adjustment and voila, I'm better. But it doesn't usually work like that. Injury doesn't happen in an instance, but a lot of people feel pain in an instance. So it's like they're doing a deadlift and they've done 100 deadlifts, and that 99th deadlift is what hurts them. And so they forget that it took 99 to cause the problem, right? And a lot of people forget that. We seem to think, oh, I woke up with neck pain, but really you've probably been doing things. You have a bad pillow, you've been sitting on the phone like this, you've been doing all these little micro injuries along the way, and then you just slept funny that one night and it caused the problem. So they think, oh, I woke up with neck pain so I can have it treated in one session. So as a practitioner, it is my job to communicate how injury works, where it goes. Like there's a lot of research that shows it takes a lot of tissue damage before you get to pain. So our body can have lots of micro tears going on. And that's how we're able to, go to the gym on a daily basis and have like that mild soreness after, but it's not enough that you have to stop going, right? So we forget that the pain that screams at us to go get treatment, you've probably had that problem for a long time. So that one hit wonder is never going to work out for you. So as a practitioner, it's on me to communicate that. And then you have people who just don't listen to that, and they come in and they expect to feel better after one session with anyone. And you can tell that patient, because one of the questions I do ask is, what other treatments have you done? And if I get well, I saw my osteopath, and then I went to an acupuncturist, and then I had a massage, and now I'm seeing the physio, and now I'm at the chiro, you're like, okay, so this person is not going to really stick out through a treatment plan, which is what people need. It's a plan of treatment where, and you can get a good idea with once you've been in practice for a while, and I mean, they do teach us at school, but I feel like experience is much more solidifying in confidence and stuff. So you can give someone an idea like, oh, okay, a disc herniation follows a certain pattern in most people. So you can give them an idea of what to expect. And if I skip that step, then sometimes people will leave, because sometimes people hurt more for the first couple treatments as they're going through before they get better. And if you don't teach them, if you don't set up the expectation that that can happen, then people blame you, the practitioner, versus, oh, this is just how this injury goes.
Yeah, we get that a lot as personal trainers too. It's like,
Oh, for sure you do,
like,
right?
we want to drop 30 pounds in a month. I'm sorry.
I did the expectation. No, I worked out once and I didn't lose any weight, and my muscles don't look bigger. Like, yeah, because it takes months to years to change a body.
Yeah, yes, it does. One of the things that I actually, I'm an advocate on one of the blog posts that you posted was I'm going to call it a war on sugar. Um, this is like the hardest thing for anybody to give up, because they have said that sugar is more addictive than cocaine itself. So your blog post was titled "What Happens When You Stop Eating Sugar." So my question to you is, how do you stop somebody from eating sugar when we are so inundated with so much sugar?
That's true. That is definitely a tough one. That is also an expectation thing. You really got to set people up to understand what it feels like to get off sugar. Most people have had experiences stopping caffeine for a little while, and very similar experience, right? Mood swings, headaches, just waking up feeling crappy and stuff. And people associate, oh, in order to fix those symptoms, I got to put the sugar back in my body. And you got to understand that that's withdrawal. If something is so powerful that it's causing withdrawal, then there's a big problem with that thing. I like to start small. I like to find out what people are eating, because when we eat clean, and what I mean clean is when you're going and you're buying vegetables and you're buying fruits and you're taking individual ingredients and putting them together yourself, you're eating clean, right? When you buy something that's boxed for you and prepared for you, then you don't know what's in there. And that's, I feel like, a huge part of where people don't even understand they're getting sugar from those things. Because in all the sauces, there's sugars. And when they put things, and there's a lot, they put a lot of things, a lot of people are like, oh, I like salty snacks. Like, I'm a potato chip person. I'm like, there's sugar in potato chips too. Like, there's all sorts of stuff we don't even know we're getting sugar in, because it's a savory food or a salty food, and there is lots of sugar and all that stuff. So I think the first step for people is just to get them on real food. One of my trainers once told me, he said the word was jerf, which was just eat real food. Instead of jerk. Jerk. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And that's the best way to get off sugar. And the other thing is to give people alternatives. If they can't not have sugar in their coffee, for instance, or in their tea or in their beverages, like, you need to offer an alternative. There are tons of sugars out there that are much better for you. Even just having like 100% pure maple syrup or raw honey, right, doesn't spike your blood sugar in the same way. They are slower burns, and you can still get sweet without having that spike that the white sugar does to you. So providing alternatives is a really great way to help people shift over. And I'm not a huge advocate of artificial sweeteners. However, if somebody's going to get off of sugar. Sometimes you might want to just shift to the diet versions of them first and then take the next step.
So it's like a weaning thing for them.
Yeah, a weaning thing. And two, cutting back too. Like if somebody's let's say a pop drinker, then, and they drink, 5 Cokes a day. Well, if you can first switch them onto something diet, so you're going to get a little bit less sweet, and it's a little bit better for you. I don't know, you're substituting chemical for sugar, but I would say going to the better version, great. Or if you can just say, okay, you have 5 Cokes a day, just have, for the next week, cut it down to 3. And then the week after that, cut it down to 1. And then, try none, or try every other day. Like anything you can do to get them to cut down, it will decrease the withdrawal that they experience, which is helpful and more sustainable for them long term if there's not such terrible consequences for cutting themselves off. And although I do agree sugar could be as bad as cocaine, especially for the brain and the body, and that it doesn't really help us cope with stress. I mean, it's pumping up, making your insulin have to go up, and insulin and cortisol are very linked, which is our stress hormone. So it's a lot of stress in the body eating too much sugar. But yeah, so anything you can make it easier. I just myself was on a bad bandwagon over a lot of COVID, and I just did it myself. And now I kind of went cold turkey on the no sugar thing, but with all my knowledge, it was easier for me because I knew what to expect. But one thing I did have to say is doing that again. I mean, I've done it a few times before, but I was probably eating a lot worse than I ever have in my life for the last while, being stuck inside and going stir crazy. But what a mood shift. Like after the first week, like I was waking up with way more energy. I also got off caffeine as well, and just switched to herbal teas and green tea because it's a much slower caffeine experience. Just waking up with energy. You'd think getting off of caffeine and sugar, you would wake up tired and lethargic, but after week 1, I wake up every morning and I'm like, okay, I can get out of bed when I wake up. That hadn't happened for me for a long time. So yeah, benefits of that are so huge.
So we've been covering this whole health and wellness topic, and it sounds like you and your clinic deals with a lot. What do you guys specifically deal with? Because health and wellness is such a broad topic.
Oh, sure. Huge. Well, I would like to say we are focused on mostly physical injury and physical well-being. So we want to take a body from whatever state it's in and improve its function overall. So most people are coming in with, well, there's two generalized patients I get. Injury patients. So someone comes in, I've hurt my back, I've got headaches, I hurt my neck, I got it in a car accident and I have pain from that. So people are coming in pain focused. I've got something that's hurting me and I want to fix it. And me personally, I think most people come into a chiropractor for some kind of back issue from the top of the head to the down to the butt, some kind of back issue. 90% of my initial patients are coming in for that. And then I have a handful of patients that are coming more for wellness care. And what I deem that is, I have some aches and pains, nothing so bad, but I just think I could feel better. So nothing, or posture. Over COVID, everyone sat at desks and got in front of computers even more so than before. And we didn't leave our houses. And a lot of people stopped moving and working out, right? So a lot of people just had this like, I'm achy all the time. After when getting up from sitting is hard, getting out of bed in the morning is hard. Because I just sort of generalized, it's not like a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale. It's like a 2 to 3 out of 10 on the pain scale, but it's there and it's bugging me on a regular basis. So those are sort of the two dichotomies. So a lot of pain and sort of minimal pain that I just feel like my body can function better. And all my practitioners are really geared towards that physical issue. Um, and then, yeah, a lot of my practitioners, or me specifically, like I'm very interested in overall health and wellness. So once I get to know a patient and I help them through their immediate problem, if they sort of decide to stick around for a more wellness body overall approach, then sometimes I'll get into the nutrition and then working on people's sort of mindset around health. And you know, as a trainer, right? People really like health is really a state of mind. It's a set of practices that you put into your life that need to be daily, if not weekly. Like some things you can do, and maybe you don't need to do them every day, but you have to, you know, have your routine set up. And to create a healthy body, you need more than just no pain. You need to put good food in your body. You have to have the right mental outlook. So that's sort of a personal thing I like to get into because I mean, it's just inspiring to me to help people transform. So I love helping people get out of pain, but once we're out of pain, there's so much more you can do.
That's actually quite interesting. And we're going to get into the mind body connection in just a bit. But
Sure.
um, because I used to deal with, before COVID hit, I used to deal with post rehab. So like the patient customer would come in after rehab and they want to go back to doing squats. So I'd get them there. And I understand fully about what you mean about getting people out of injury and getting them. But what I found mostly was getting them past the physical injury was one thing. Getting them past the mental aspect of them still being injured was totally different.
Yeah, well, injury could create a lot of fear in people, right? Like their body failed them in some way, and to move past that and to trust their body again is sometimes really hard. And that's all in the mind, right? Because you're once your tissues in your body are injury free, there's really no reason that you can't go back to what you were doing before and do more and get better. But that mind will get in your way for sure.
Yeah. Um, One thing that I noticed with a lot of my clients is their sleep was impacted greatly because of it. How, like, I have a circadian cycle right behind me. For those of you watching, for those of you listening, I have a circadian cycle behind me, the graph. How important do you think is like getting your sleep right?
Well, first of all, we do like a good majority of our healing, of our growing, of our tissue repair, all during sleep. So sleep is super vital. Sometimes my patients like worry because I would have the title of natural healthcare practitioner, right? I don't prescribe medication to people. Um, and they worry. They're like, oh, like, is it okay if I take something? And I always tell them, if your pain is interrupting your sleep, then medicate the pain, put the band-aid on, take care of that pain, because the sleep is far more important than taking a drug for a couple of days that you if you don't want to put chemicals in your body. And there's a lot of people out there who like need want to be all natural and they don't feel comfortable putting some of those chemicals in their body. But I always tell people, if you're going to lose out on sleep, I'd rather you take your medicine for a couple days, take that Advil or something even stronger, whatever, for a couple days to get the sleep in, because your body's going to heal better what if it can sleep, right? um, and something I talk a lot about with my patients is how are they sleeping? What position are they in? Are they getting a good deep sleep? When was the last time that they got a new mattress? Because the mattresses out there today are fantastic and there's so many options. And a lot of them have those, especially those ones, although I don't know how you return them once they've blown up out of the box. um, but like they all come with like 90-day trial periods, like try a mattress. So so it's like really there's so many great stuff out there, and also pillows. Like people sometimes, like I have a lot of people who are like, oh, I wake up and my shoulders and neck are sore every day. I'm like, oh, well, what kind of pillow are you sleeping on? Because depending on your position in sleep, some pillows are more optimal than others. So I do a lot of education on sleep position and the importance of getting quality sleep. And of course, with technology these days, we're all on our phones, and a lot of people have a TV in there, and then there's a blue light, and then there's a red light, and there's like all these things that we don't even realize we've kind of set up our bedrooms that are not conducive to the best, deepest possible sleep. And of course, when you have children, then it all goes out the window.
Usually,
But,
usually does.
yeah, well, with my kids, my younger son was always a difficult sleeper. So I got very strict on that, because him not sleeping then impacted me. And then I'm one of those people, if I don't get a good quality sleep, I don't function as well. And having an infant and like a 2-year-old, I had a lot of difficulty parenting that 2-year-old who's going through normal phases of like defiance and little things that maybe wouldn't be impactful if it was just him. But when I was exhausted from this infant, who my second did not sleep for the first 4 months of his life, basically, I couldn't deal with my 2-year-old effectively because I was just so angry. And if you allow swearing, I was really just quite a bitch for that whole time.
I do
But
allow.
yeah, so, well, I don't know. So yeah. Yeah, so yes, sleep is very vital. And I really do talk a lot with my patients about it. And we discuss even small things like taking magnesium before you go to bed. That's a huge help with sleep because it relaxes everything in the body, not just the muscles, which is often a good thing for when people have like twitches or cramps or whatever. So magnesium helps, but it also relaxes smooth muscle as well, which means, well, better bowel movement. So that improves health too, right? And plus it relaxes your brain and the brain waves. So you actually get a nicer, calmer, deeper sleep. So little things like that people don't even know about is really helpful. And yeah, sleep is super vital. And the people who say, oh, I function fine on 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep, it's not true. Like they think they do because that's how they've slept their whole life. But the truth is, they would be a much better version of themselves if they actually got in more sleep.
Yeah, yeah. And I found that you can only sustain that for a short period of time. I tried that last year, getting 5 hours sleep, and did that from March till around September, and then October I had a massive burnout.
Yeah, it's so hard. And it really is, it's really rough on your neurology, really. Your brain really can't handle that. And you have to compensate a lot. And the only thing I can say to that is if you are an insomniac, like getting more physically active is often very helpful with that. So if you can't sleep, sometimes I'll recommend to people, like, then get up, like before you're going to go to bed, not right before, But like, go out and get some, go do your gym workout at 9 o'clock at night, come home and go to sleep at 11. Like if you have a rough sleep, because your body's going to be tired, which will help quiet your brain more. Those things like that can be helpful too.
Cool. Very cool. Switching gears a bit. What was the trigger for you to get started studying in chiropractic treatment?
Well, I always sort of, growing up, like my dad was a stockbroker and financial planner. My mom worked at Seneca College, so she was like a teacher and then administrator there. So I kind of, when I was a kid growing up, I kind of went back and forth between, oh, I'm going to be like my mom. No, I'm going to be like my dad. No, I'm going to be like my mom. And then around 8 or 10 years old, I sort of said, forget that. I want to be a doctor. So I was sort of, at a very young age, I knew I wanted to help people. And then I guess my own personal experience, I must have been a relatively healthy kid. And my own personal experience was, you go to the doctor to get needles or medicine, and you don't go to the doctor if you don't need either of those things. And so in my mind, and I didn't need those things too much, except for whenever they were required. I was not a very sickly kid, so I wasn't at the doctor that much. And I got that into my head. That's what doctors did. And I was not so into it after a while. Once I got into my teenage years, I wasn't into taking medicine, and I definitely did not like needles. Needles freaked me out, except for now I have tattoos. So forget that phobia. But so when I went to university, I was like, I need to figure out how to be a doctor that doesn't do that, because I didn't want to do that. I was like, I don't want to give needles and I don't want to prescribe medicine. So most people were talking about going into physiotherapy. And I just have this personality streak inside me that says, when every single person is doing one thing, you should do something different. I've just always been like that. It's like, everyone's wearing red. No, I'll wear pink. Like I just have that natural little bit of rebellion inside me. Um, and my mom actually suggested to me, when I was in finishing off my second year at university, she said, why don't you go and spend your summer shadowing different practitioners? So like, my parents knew, my mom saw a chiropractor, and one of my dad's friends was a chiropractor, and one of my mom's friends was an occupational therapist. So I just spent that summer after my second year spending a day with different practitioners. And what happened when I went into chiropractors' offices was this: I lived the best life ever. I treat people, they get better. I love my life. I wake up every day happy to go to work. I make tons of money. I have my weekends off. I like work 4-day weekdays, like just the happiest people I ever met. I was like, I want that drug. Like, sign me up. Because they were so happy and they just loved their life so much. And they were such believers in the body and like our ability to heal ourselves, which is very empowering. Yeah, so I just got really excited about it, and I said, okay, that's where I'm going.
Very cool. Very cool. Now it's interesting because coming from a layman perspective, chiropractic is just cracking bones.
Yes.
But I do have friends that are chiropractors, and it's much more than that. Um, there's this idea out there that you crack your knuckles, and you're being told as a kid, don't crack your knuckles or you're gonna catch arthritis. Isn't that a little bit true with the rest of the body, or am I missing something? I'm probably missing something here.
Well, all friction, so a joint is where two bones come together. Okay. So people mistaken that noise, that cracking noise, they think those are bones banging against each other. Okay. And when the idea of bones banging against each other creates friction, of course, you're going to wear and tear them and you're going to create arthritis. But that's not what cracking is, first of all. It's the illusion, because that sound, and I don't know why the universe or God or whatever, our creator of whomever he or she may be, or it may be, I don't know why they chose that noise, because it freaks people out. In fact, it freaks me out. I hate when people crack their knuckles. I'm like, oh, stop it. But I'm okay when I crack other people's backs and make noises. First of all, yes, we do move the body and it makes that cracking noise. So yes, we're cracking. But there's so much else going on in the joints. And what people don't understand about that particular noise is every joint has a capsule around it, meaning a tissue that wraps around the entire joint and seals it off from the rest of the body. And then we've got this fluid inside that joint. And around the edges of the bone, we have cartilage, which protects it. So there's not so much friction in there. And sometimes we even have things like discs in our spine between the joints. So they're not, so we got this rubbery stuff that we're rubbing against, or we have bursas in some joints, like around shoulders and knees and hips. And we also have labrums, which is like really thick cartilage in our shoulders and our knees. So there's lots of stuff protecting those surfaces that are actually connecting to make the motion. And one of the things is every bit of our body is made up of billions of cells, right? Each cell functions as a unit on its own. Each cell has a brain, each cell has an energy source, and it has to eat and digest, and product of digestion is gas. And because those joints have those capsules around them that doesn't let anything leave the joints, the gas will build up in there. And that's why sometimes when I adjust someone, that crack noise is so loud, and you're like, wow, that joint hasn't been moved in a long time. There's lots of air bubbles in it, and it makes that loud noise. Versus sometimes it's so quiet you can barely hear it, and there's less gas in that joint at the time of the adjustment. The other thing that the layperson doesn't know is that you don't even need that noise to make that for an adjustment to happen. For what I need, for what I'm looking for, my goal is not that noise. It just happens to happen most of the time. But there's many different chiropractic techniques that use some tools and stuff that like eliminate the noise completely, because they're faster and they don't require as much twisting or pushing on those joints to get them to move. So the crack is a byproduct. It's not the goal. Yeah. And then the other thing that people don't know much about is the interaction with the nervous system. Every time you adjust a joint, you have a whole cascade of things that happens in the body, particularly in the spine, because the spinal cord's right there. So when you do that release in the spine, you get a message immediately that goes straight up to the brain and tells the brain to stop producing adrenaline and cortisol, your stress hormones, and to start producing dopamine and serotonin, which are your feel-good hormones, for your relaxed hormones. And the other thing it does is go into the motor cortex of the brain and shuts off contraction. So actually, if I never touched a muscle and just did an adjustment, those muscles that are tight around there are going to relax actually over time. It takes a few minutes to an hour. Some people it takes even longer. It depends how tight they are. Now, me personally, I like to do work on the muscles anyways, because I find that the impact of the adjustment and treatment is so much more when you release muscles too. But that's my personal take on it. Other chiropractors don't even touch the muscles. They just do those adjustments. And I have so many ways to adjust that don't require the crack. So I like to tell people, like, because I've had some patients who I had a mom recently who wanted to bring her son in. He's been having headaches, and the mom was so worried because she doesn't like the cracking. She's just not for her. She doesn't like it. She especially did not want me to work on to make his neck make noise because that was too freaky for her. And so I said, you know what, bring him in. Like I have alternative ways of moving the neck that have zero cracking happening. So you don't have to stress out about that. And she was so happy at the end of the treatment with me because I think I shared information with her that no other person that she had taken her son to see had even shared. Just little things like explained all the posture, his posture and what I found and how it's contributing to the headaches. And we talked about how little exercises to help adjust the posture and little ways that he could do self-care at home to help when he gets headaches and things that she just had never had any other healthcare practitioner offer her. So I'm glad she came in and got over the fear of the cracking.
Well, I don't mind the cracking, so
Me neither.
I'm one of
I
those
love it.
weird guys, I
Yeah.
guess.
But and yes, like I guess the arthritis myth of the over cracking. First of all, as chiropractors, like hopefully we're not doing the like 20 people who crack their knuckles tend to do it, 10, 20 times a day. If you're seeing your chiropractor, hopefully, unless you're in severe pain, you should be seeing your chiropractor maximum once a day, but most people are seeing chiropractors for like injury type care, like 2 or 3 times in a week. And then for like a maintenance style or wellness style care, you're generally going in like once a month for an adjustment. So this is not a situation where you're going to get that over cracking, friction causing arthritis situation. And I also think there's a huge factor of genetics in there because some people are just more genetically prone to arthritis. So some people will crack their knuckles for their whole life and they'll never ever experience arthritis in their knuckles. And other people don't crack them ever and get severe arthritis in their knuckles. There is some kind of genetic tendency and also nutritional tendency. Some people walk around with tons of inflammation in their body, which is the number one cause of arthritis, but also the number one cause of a lot of, or involved in most disease processes that we know of. So certain things you can do, even from a nutrition standpoint, or like, let's say, go have a massage and do lymphatic drainage, like get the excess fluid out of your body as much as possible. And hydration is key, right? We only hold on to water when we don't get enough, if the body's not sure. So there's like lots of other factors that play into why we get arthritis, other than being an excessive knuckle cracker.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. A big part of what you do is resetting the skeleton back to a state of quote unquote normalcy of how it's supposed to look like. Now, I have studied in the past traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Do you do any work with the meridian system as well to help solidify the area that you just adjusted?
So, I mean, I actually have trained in acupuncture myself in a TCM acupuncture. I tend to not use it personally because I have such amazing TCM acupuncturists in my clinic, and the last clinic that I worked at also had amazing acupuncturists in there. So for me, I was like, instead of throwing it in as an add-on to my treatment, I really was like, please go see the expert in that, because that's sort of like something, I mean, I spent a good amount of time learning it. So I have the knowledge. And yes, when I look at the body, I'm always looking at what is the flow of energy. And I think that's just something I've sort of personally picked up along the way from studying that. So I also get sometimes just this intuitive feeling like, okay, I'm treating someone, they've got a low back issue, and my brain will just tell me check out their right shoulder. And I just go up there and I'm like, oh, what's going on up here? And like, so that to me is like almost using that kind of energy flow where you're just like, okay, there's something more, like this is a problem here, but it's not just there, it's flowed up to other parts of the body. And that has a lot of connection to that kind of sort of meridian, chi, whatever you want to call it, where there's a flow of energy through the body. And that things that might be, you might have a problem on the bottom of your foot, but it's related to a hip issue on the other side of the body. And that is all like, when you look at TCM and acupuncture, right? That's the whole thing, right? Like you've got the whole spine on the bottom of the foot there. And like, you have points on along all the meridians are called by organs, right? So like you have liver running through your whole body, right? So I really do feel that having that connection, that holistic view of the body, that you can't isolate one little area and not affect and have no effect on everywhere else. So when I personally treat, I don't ever just check out where they're sore. I look at the whole body. I look at posture. I look at the balance in the body. I look at, if they've got a low back issue, I always check the upper back. And if they have an upper back issue, I check the low back. And if they have a shoulder issue, I'm going to go in right through from like belly button up spine, because the nerves are, and the nervous system's going everywhere. And then the nerves from the, neck and upper back area are going down the arms. So if I have an elbow issue, it's never just going to be the elbow, especially if you got it playing a sport or doing an exercise, right? Because you weren't just bending your elbow wasn't detached from your body and you were bending it in isolation, right? It was bent. And then when you injure your elbow, you've compensated now with your shoulder, which is connected to your neck and to your rib cage. And so you have to check everything and really see that body as a whole, holistic view if you want to have the best impact on somebody.
Yeah, that is so true, because that's what I used to do with my clients post or pre-COVID. Is they would even see the gym floor until I was comfortable with them getting off of my table. Now, the next little topic we might get a little woo-woo into, so if you don't mind.
I like woo-woo.
Okay, muscle knots. Now, muscle knots, according to acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, is a buildup of energy in one area because the meridian is blocked. I used to use that with muscle testing. How do you go about finding the issue with the muscle knot?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I mean, because it's the same sort of idea, right? A muscle is not in isolation. A muscle starts somewhere on the body, attaches into a bone, and then goes to another part of the body and attaches into sometimes a different bone, sometimes the same bone, depends on the muscle, right? So you need to look not just at the muscle knot, because muscles don't get knotted for no reason, right? So I always have to follow out. So if I'm working on the bicep, I'm going to check the shoulder and the elbow, and sometimes I go beyond that. And obviously, if I'm going into the shoulder, then I'm going over to the neck, because I always try and connect into the spine, because that is the most impactful I can have. I have people come and tell me they have numbness in their hand. And sometimes I don't even touch the hand. Sometimes I'm all up in the neck and the shoulder area working on those knots that I find in there, and making sure that the joints are aligned. So yeah, with muscle knots, I always work on the muscle, and often you have to work on the group. So if you have a bicep issue, you can't just treat that bicep, right? There's other muscles that run in and around and behind and beside those muscles. You have to check all that, because that muscle didn't knot up in isolation. And I find too, because there's joints associated, you really got to check out those joints too. You can't just check out that bicep without looking, okay, how is that shoulder moving? How's your elbow moving? Like where is it that the problem of the motion that's causing that muscle to get tight, right? And I think like the idea of the chi being block causing that makes sense too, right? The flow. You can also look at it from a very scientific, instead of woo-woo place. It's is the flow of the information along your nervous system from your brain to your body and from your body back up to your brain. Is that flowing? Where is it restricted along the way? So then you're taking a meridian, which might be more woo-woo talk for some people, and putting it into a very scientific thing. Like your nerve is getting pinched by that muscle, and therefore you're not getting the messages all the way down your arm. So you can look at it, you can make it non-woo-woo for the people who don't like it. I like woo-woo personally, but
Oh,
that's
me too.
I'm a woo-woo geek.
The central nervous system, it's probably the most important thing, and which kind of leads into what we're talking about with knots. Do you think like pinching or impingement of the central nervous system in one form or another not only just has an effect on the physical aspect of the human, but also the psychological aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I mean, our brains are processing billions of things. Like I don't I can't quote the right numbers because I don't really know them offhand, but like we're processing like I believe it's in the billions of synapses every minute of the day. And our body's never not firing something. Even when we're sleeping, things are going on. So yeah, like the when the body, well, first of all, when we're in pain, there's a huge psychological aspect to that, right? Pain, you and I can be injured in the exact same way and to the exact same degree, and I might be screaming in agony and you might be like, oh yeah, whatever, because your perception of that pain, because maybe you've experienced that level of pain before, or this is a regular injury that you have. And so regardless of the fact that we've been injured and have the same exact level of injury in the tissue itself, our brains perceive it completely different. So any physical ailment in the body is going to affect people on a mental health level. Yeah, like especially I find like chronic pain, people who are in pain on a daily basis for long periods of time, there is massive psychological overlay, and you can remove that physical pain from them and they will have to still get over the psychological thing. Like you said, being afraid to move past injury, right? That's all a lot of mental, like my body failed me and now I have to get over that. Plus, movement is very key to mental health. If you speak to anybody who has depression, anxiety, whatever, all those things improve drastically with physical activity. So it makes sense that mental health would be tied right into physical issues.
Yeah. I was going to circle back to exactly what you what you mentioned, with the whole, moving past, because you see it in sports athletes all the time. Like they get hurt during a specific movement, and every time they lead up to it, they fail.
Yeah, they fail. And too, like, it's like they set themselves up for the failure. They get so scared about getting there, and the head gets in the way of the body moving. And often they end up more injured because they're scared of doing something. Like a lot of the time, they say like, I know my dad's loves to golf. And he talks about, when you're going through that swing, the second you don't go full out and don't just do that motion freely with full release is when you screw up, is when your ball goes off the wide, and or it goes short or whatever. And a lot of people they get to that motion that's difficult or scary, or where they had an injury and they freeze up. They're like, oh my God, I got to get through this. And then they end up tightening everything up and they don't go full out through that motion. And that's where we get more injuries, because people are freezing through instead of flowing. And that really causes a lot of problems.
What tools do you use to help somebody get through that?
Well, I know professional sports people use a ton of visualization to get through that. And I know there's been tons of studies done where you had people doing the physical practice and other people doing a mental practice of the physical practice. So like visualizing themselves doing it, and they get the same gains in improvement in their skill, whether they've done it physically or mentally. So to practice whatever is scary mentally, where you're not in the danger of injuring yourself, is a huge way to help people get over that hump. Just to visualize themselves doing it successfully, and it's got to be like a regular daily practice to get through that, and visualizing themselves being successful, going through that motion is a huge way to get them over the hump. And that way, when they jump to the physical, once they've practiced doing it mentally so many times, then now they're able to get out of their head. Actually very applicable to postural issues, because posture is just how are we holding our body. And then there's more ideal postures than others, right? And posture, but we're always in posture. Whatever we're doing, we're in a posture. And most of the time, we're not really thinking about it. If we're leaning to one side, or if we're sucking in our stomach, or if we're letting it all hang out, like we're not generally thinking about that, unless maybe an attractive person walks by, then maybe you might suck it in and, stand up straighter. But otherwise, it's very subconscious. And when I'm working on posture with patients, I teach them that. I'm like, you need to start bringing posture to the forefront of your mind. You need to start thinking about it. You need to go, okay, is my posture good now? And then think about it for 30 seconds. And if you can think about your posture and correct it for 30 seconds, like 10, 12 times a day, you're sitting up straight as I'm talking about posture.
I actually just cracked my neck.
And then slowly but surely, you don't have to think about it anymore. When I was little, I did ballet when I was little. And one thing they always had us do was, suck in your stomach. Like that was just thing, because it tightens your core and it gives you the strength to be able to lift your legs and do all this stuff in ballet. But when you're a little kid, they don't really explain it that way to you. They just say, okay, proper ballet forms, suck in that stomach. And then when I transfer over to being in chiropractic college, and we're talking about the transversus abdominis muscle, right? And like how that helps with posture and core strength and all this stuff. And I walked out of that class where I learned that and I thought, oh my God, I do that all the time, because I did ballet so much as a kid. They always told me to suck in, and I've been sucking in my whole life. So, but like for somebody new, that would be a new thing, right? Like they wouldn't walk around tightening their core all the time. So yeah, muscles and all things we do in sport and movement, we can do mentally to build up the physical experience.
No, I totally agree. But the thing I have issue with the transverse abdominis, or the TVA, as we call it, is that the actual 2 times that we actually really use it is when women are giving birth and when you go to the bathroom.
Sure, sure.
That's the only time it's really being used. So if you're having bowel issues, maybe your TVA needs to be worked a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I
um,
no, I just I guess that it was the buzz thing, right? Like that
yeah,
people, or I think engaging that core, um, it's just it's really, although I'm sure that people have been training with that idea for a long time, but people were always focused on that, the six pack, the rectus abdominis, that because it looks nice. So people focus on that, and I think the discussion of using those other layers underneath the obliques and the transversus is very important, because you don't want to just engage and have a six pack on top of a not strong core, because it might look nice, but doesn't do as much for you if you're not all the way around, if you don't have that whole corset tight. So
yeah, that's another big thing us trainers fail at. It's like everybody comes to us, oh, I want the six pack abs. Well, you already have them.
oh yeah, we all have them, and the other thing that people don't know, like of course you can get your abs stronger. That without a doubt can happen, but like 80% of that is just basically eating right to show off what is already there, right? We can all show off our six packs if we just got uh got rid of that, abdominal fat that's lying on top of it, preventing them from being seen, which is mostly diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about community. Now, this is a huge topic, especially of late. You had a very interesting history, maybe like a few years ago, when you pretty much lost everything. Now, I know because I've been there before, and I know how hard it really is. So why don't you go in, if you don't mind going into it a little bit?
Sure, sure. Well, I just um, like when I graduated from school, I was really lucky. Happened to have ended a serious relationship a year before school ended, and was single and had this profession. And I thought, okay, I can go anywhere in the world and do this as long as I can speak the language, which I guess limited me because I'm not very good at much besides English. Very poor French I have, and a little bit of Hebrew, but other than that, not much. But so I ended up going to Australia for 2 years. And then when I came back, I associated at a couple clinics, which means I worked under other people. And then someone from my chiropractic class kind of called me and said, I have this guy, he's a retiring doctor. I was supposed to take over his clinic, but it's not working out for me. Would you come check this out? So I went, and it turned out to be a very good fit, in terms of just my kind of style of practice. And I went in there, and unfortunately, he was actually quite sick, which is why he was retiring. So it was a little rushed. And I didn't really know anything about business, because they don't teach you that, even though you really end up having to know how to run a business, but they don't teach you that at school, or very little. And so I just went in there and I secured a loan for to buy the practice. But I didn't know enough about business to know, like, I should also plan for maybe the first 6 months to a year. So I should have asked for more money, and there's a lot of should haves there. But basically, I went in there, and uh, it was 2008. So everybody, like, if you looked up and down Yonge Street that day, for those of you not in Toronto, that's like our main busiest street in Toronto. And there were businesses closing everywhere. People were leaving all over the place. And here I am buying a new business, and I renovated the space. And I just had a very not nice landlord, which a lot of people have experienced, not great landlords. And I'm sure during this pandemic, there's a lot of people who had who found out their landlords weren't as nice as they thought they were. And other people like me in my current situation found out I had the most wonderful landlord possible. So, but in this case, it was tough. I had student loans, I had business loan, and the practice came with a receptionist who was lovely, and I was a bleeding heart, and I kept her on because I wanted to keep her for the transition and just to be nice because I knew she didn't have anything else but that job. And for me, I didn't want to let her go feeling obligated to keep her because she was nice and because I was too nice. And I didn't know enough about business to know that you can like someone and they still might not be good for your business. Anyways, I got myself into a little trouble where I was working like 5 days a week, and like full-time working there. And I was making just enough to pay back everything at the end of the month. So I was walking away with zero. I was super lucky that I had very, very nice parents that had a room in the basement of their house and they let me stay there rent free. Otherwise, I would have never, I couldn't have lived a life on that. And after a while, it was taxing because I can't remember how old I was then. Oh, yes, I do. I was 30 years old then. And I just was like, it was time to not be in my parents' basement. And I wanted to move out, but I had no way because everything was going right back into that clinic. And as people were leaving things, I spoke to my landlord there and I said, please help me out. Like, I'm a new business. I've got all this overhead. The guy that was in there before me was there for 30 years. He had no overhead other than rent. Like, he was in a position where that it wasn't an issue for him. And they just didn't care. Sorry, it's business, it's not personal. You're lovely, but we can't do anything for you. And I tried to bring in somebody else to rent with me. I tried to get other practitioners in. I just was young and naive and I didn't know what I was doing yet. And it didn't all work out. And the landlord was difficult in terms of bringing in a subleaser. I was like, okay, I can't stay here. Let me help you get someone in to take over my lease. And they blocked me everywhere. No, we don't want this type of business in here. No, we don't want that type of business in there. So I eventually said, I'm sorry, but I got to leave. So I left and all was fine for about a year. And then they served me with papers to sue me for money because of the situation. They couldn't get anyone else in that space. It took them a year to fill the space. And then they ended up giving that person, they offered them basically half the rent that I was paying to fill the space. And now, too bad for them, because if they had just did that for me in the beginning and said, okay, we understand, and dropped my rent by half, I could have stayed and they would have never missed a year of payment. But of course, so they sued me for that year that I missed, plus anticipation of the next year that they were only going to get half the rent. So they wanted to sue me for the other half of the rent too, that they were missing. And yeah, so under the advice of a lawyer and a debt consolidation person, I declared bankruptcy, which was crazy at the time. But I had a husband, but no kids yet. I had a kid on the way. And so they said, really, it's not a big deal. Lots of people do it. Don't worry about it. But because I was young and I wasn't incorporated or anything. So I've had to personally go bankrupt and, not be able to get credit cards for a long time. And it's hard to lease a space if you're in bankruptcy, right? So which was okay at the time for me there. I just decided to work for other people at that point in time. But yeah, it was scary and tough decision to do, and carried through for a long time, up to even getting this new space that I'm in now, Health Haven is in. I had to get my husband to co-sign everything with me because of the bankruptcy that just still kind of lingers in your background. It's actually completely off my credit record now, but which is wonderful. But that just little things like that puts a strain on your marriage and your life, right? Because now I'm dependent on my husband in a whole other level. Like, he's not financially supporting me because he wants to, but it's because he has to. And that can add a little bit of layer of tension into a marriage. Financial issues always sort of lay a stress layer to any relationship, really.
Yeah, it does. It does. How important was it and still is to have the support of your community, which is your husband right now?
Yeah. I mean, it's essential. I couldn't be where I am today without it. Like, I'm super lucky. I have my immediate community of my immediate family and my husband, and I'm super lucky. I've always been supported, um, both emotionally, financially, and just, yeah, I've always had a very close family and close relationship with my siblings, and they're all super supportive. And yeah, it's everything. And I recently moved from one clinic where the owner of that clinic ended up shifting as the clinic became successful. He moved from being a very supportive person to being look what I need all the money that I can get. And he stopped caring about his practitioners and realizing that they were the ones that were giving him success versus the other way around. He had this mentality that if that clinic wasn't there, we would all be failing. And that bled into the whole clinic, and it led to this huge, massive exodus. At least 10 of the practitioners who had been there from basically when he started that clinic had left because we all felt pushed out by him. And that was a terrible experience there, but at least I had all my patients were just like, okay, where are you going? We're coming. So that's like a community of support there too. And the community that my clinic in is amazing. Like, there's Facebook groups all over the place, and I'm sure that the new Nextdoor app that's out there where everyone's is so supportive. Like, there was a fire in one of the coffee shops very recently, and they've set up a GoFundMe page for them to help them pay their staff and stuff while they're renovating. And like, when restaurants do nice things all through the pandemic, it's been just incredible to watch everybody support each other. And when people are done with items, they're just like, who needs it? Like, instead of just selling stuff or throwing stuff away, people are like really generously donating and taking care of everyone. It's so nice to see, because I feel like the pandemic, although it was so heavy on all of our mental health and health in general, and it was so isolating in one way, but it opened up this whole other thing in the community that I don't necessarily think really existed before that, where people were just really looking out for each other and helping each other out, and doing meal delivery, and not forgetting to help out all the charities in the area and stuff. And I think that was an amazing thing that we got from the pandemic that was positive.
So it's mostly like, this pandemic that we just went through separated us so much, that strengthened our own community within ourselves and within our people around us.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, yeah. And I think there is like a lot of opportunity to spend so much time with your immediate cohort, whatever that is, whether it was family or if it was roommates or if it was, parents and kids together for long periods of time. I think we got an opportunity to really bond and learn even more because spending all this time together. I was speaking as a parent, just to be able to really watch my kids in a way that I never had the opportunity to before. And I got to see them interact with their teachers and their friends through virtual school, which I would never have the opportunity to see. And just, connect and bond with like physical touch, because that's all I could, those are the only people I could touch, right? I guess at my practice, I was allowed to touch people in a very sanitized way. But it's funny, I bumped into a patient on the street and I didn't even recognize her till she stopped me and said, "Oh, hi, Dr. Jordanna," because she had her mask off. And I had never seen her with her mask off ever, because she was a new patient during pandemic time. And I thought, wow, that's like such a weird experience. I had no idea what she looked like except for her eyes.
Wow. Wow. Do you think we're going to have a hard time reintroducing ourselves with the community again?
Yeah, I think just because restrictions are lifted doesn't mean people feel comfortable and safe to in the first place, especially with working out. Because I think that's a tough one, because now you're in a room with people with all the fluids going around, right? Sweating and breathing hard. So I think that can be a little nerve-wracking for people. The other thing is like, yeah, like we haven't seen people fully for a long time. And, I think there was a little bit of wreaking havoc on us. I don't know. I gained the COVID-19. So like, I don't even look the same as I did before, although actually I've released a bunch of it already. But like, yeah, it's going to be tough to get back out there. And a lot of people still have a ton of anxiety around just being out and being in public. And having the education I have and knowing what I know about the body, I feel like my level of comfort is so much higher than a lot of other people's. I noticed that because people ask me like, "Oh, what are you going to do when you're allowed to take off your mask?" I'm like, "I'm going to throw it in the garbage. I'm going to be so excited." And other people are like, "I think I'm going to keep mine on for a long time." But for me, I know, right? I personally want to breathe air. I want access to germs. I want to boost my immune system and get that mask off so I can get over it. Of course, I'm sure we're all going to get these small little colds are going to be blown out of proportion because we haven't touched really germs for like 18 months. We're all going to get super sick with not COVID things and then not be allowed to go anywhere because we're all sick with non-COVID related issues. My kids had runny noses this week and I had to keep them away from camp for 2 days because I was just like, you can't go with a runny nose. You just can't. I know it's not COVID, but oh well.
Yeah, I am total in agreement with you. I cannot wait for the day to take off these face diapers and get germs so I can be healthy again.
Exactly. And that is a unique perspective of a healthcare practitioner on any level, from trainer up to surgeons. Like, we know if you don't expose yourself to all the little bugs out there, then when the big bad bug comes around, you really are not able to protect yourself against them. And our reaction to those small bugs is like, no, normally with when we're unmasked and whatever, and we've been out in the public, like those germs, they're all over us all the time. And it's funny when people say they catch colds and stuff. I'm like, no, you didn't catch a cold. Your immune system was down, and so the cold was able to take over your body, because we're fighting colds and germs all the time. It's just when we encounter them. But if we have been sanitizing all the germs away and covering ourselves up. It'll be interesting to see.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. I actually was just got off maybe a few hours ago with a call with Dr. Ben Fuchs. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've ever heard of him.
I think so.
Yeah, and he was saying the exact same thing. Like, and he's like he's a pharmacologist, and he's like, this is, we need the germs, we need the viruses, we need to be exposed to this.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Like my kids came home once from school and they had like that, I don't know, Lysol goes around and teaches them all about that. And I said, and I mean, this is pre-COVID, so sorry for anyone who doesn't like what I'm about to say, but I said to them, and forget everything that you learned. I was like, no sanitizing, don't do that. I said, the only time I need you to wash your hands is after you go to the bathroom. Other than that, I don't care. You want to eat the dirt, go right ahead. But, I think that may be an uncomfortable point of view for some people, but that's me. I'm just like, touch every animal, get your hands dirty, get dirty. If your food falls on the floor, if it doesn't fall in a pile of like dirt, then pick it up and eat it. Whatever, who cares?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm in agreement with you.
No, I know. I just, I just like to caveat that with like, I might be out there in that opinion, and that's okay. I'm good. I'm okay with that too. If I have an unpopular point of view on some stuff, because sometimes as healthcare practitioners, we know so much more about those kinds of things, just based on our education. And for me personally, we got a lot of education on nutrition, but I don't necessarily apply it on a daily basis. But I'm fascinated. I will take every course out there on nutrition. And same with neurology. I just find the brain and the nervous system so fascinating. And yes, I do believe that I am treating that every time I interact with a joint, that if a nerve's there, I'm interacting with the nervous system. But just I will just take in every course on it. Neurology is so fascinating. The brain is just wow. It's just above and beyond. Maybe if I got to do it all again, I think I would go into neurobiology because it's so fascinating, or maybe epigenetics or something like that.
Well, I have an entire textbook that I haven't even cracked open. That's just on the neurological, because neurological system with a human being, and I haven't even cracked it open because it's like I read a couple of pages. I'm like, yeah, no, not at 3 o'clock in the morning. Does not. This is not 3 a.m. reading.
Oh, I'm gonna forget the name of the guy. Oh, I heard a podcast with this one guy who's just who is a neurobiologist or neurologist, and he really talked so well. Like I think anyone could have listened to that podcast and gotten tons out of it. He was just really able to bring it down to the layman's terms, and I was like fascinated by it. I was like, I got to read every book he put out, but I can't remember his name at the moment, so I apologize for that. But
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. We're going to be wrapping up the show in just a bit.
sure.
And these are the 7 or 8 questions that I ask all my guests. I just want your input on these topics.
Okay.
With the increase in people suffering from depression from the uncertainty in this world, what's the one thing that you could tell them to keep their hopes up?
Well, I just think that there is so much goodness out there. People are generally good. And I think we forget that sometimes. We see sensationalized media of maybe the worst out there, and we forget like really speak to the people that you love, you hold dearest to your heart, and like share your worries, share your anxieties. We are all human. We all feel the same way. We've all gone through this experience together, and most of us have very similar stories and experiences on how we're feeling. We're all scared. We're all anxious. And I think the more you talk about your fears and the more you talk about your insecurities and the more you talk about the things you feel shameful about in your life, the more you realize everybody is the same. Maybe not the exact same experience, but we all have those things. We all have fears and anxieties and shame. So share them with people that you hold dear to your heart, that are, going to keep your story personal unto themselves, and realize you're never alone. Everybody has the same kind of anxieties and fears.
I love that. Thank you for that. What's the one thing that you do on a daily basis that amplifies your ability to stay focused?
Well, I am really lucky. I'm very, very good at focusing. I was born with a natural tendency to be slow and focused. However, I think the biggest key I can say is when you want to focus, you got to remove all of the distractions, right? Like, don't bring, like, if I had my cell phone sitting beside me right now and like a kid in the room with me, like I couldn't focus because there's so much stuff to look at, right? So like know what you're easily distracted by and clear those out of your space where you're in. That's the best thing to do if you want to focus. And then some things like if you're in a house and there's lots of noise around you, like put on headphones, like clear your space. And if you can't clear your space, do something that can help you really zone in on what you're doing.
Very cool. If you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself at 20 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, at 20, I would tell myself to love myself just the way I am. Just that I'm already perfect just the way I was right then. And to stop worrying so much about how I looked, what clothes I was putting on, who I was talking to, like just that, all that doesn't matter. It's just so not important, because who we are inside is just so much more important. I think my 20-year-old self was very caught up in, am I skinny enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I this? Do enough? And I happen to be heterosexual, so are enough guys interested in me and all that kind of stuff. And the nonsense, like, who cares? Be a good person and love yourself the way you are now, because how we look can shift, but who we are in our core doesn't really change.
Amen to that. Looking back, would you change anything?
Not really. I am a product of my experiences. Yeah, like I mean, I could go back and say, hey, don't date that one guy, he wasn't worth it. Don't waste your time those few months on him, or that one friend is going to end up being toxic. So like little things maybe, but I feel like all those little things, those maybe few toxic moments in my life or really difficult moments that I've had, have turned around and made my present life so much better and more rich, and I know so much more now. So no, I don't regret anything. And yeah, barring minor tweaks, I wouldn't change anything.
Cool. What scares you?
I have a lot of underlying fears. I think after working with coaches and things like that, I think success scared me the most. Because if you succeed big, you can fail big. So I think but after like drilling it down, I think I was almost more comfortable with failure than I am of success, because like like, then what do you do? What if you get everything you ever wanted? Then what? Because then I have everything I want. And then what if I'm still depressed, unhappy, anxious, scared, fearful? And then all those things that I thought I needed to not feel that haven't changed anything. But I've worked through that now. So I'm not scared anymore of success. I want it because I realize that the more successful I am, the more people I can help in my life and touch in my life. And that fills me up. So that, and then I'm always scared about my children. I feel like that's never ever going to go away.
I think that is with every single mother, every single father, every single aunt or uncle out there. They're always worried about the kids.
Yeah, I'm always scared. And it's hard to balance that fear and the desire to push them to get out and do things and be themselves and stuff, and also to not save them all the time, and to balance having that fear but still not going in and fixing every problem. And because that's how we learned, right? All of us learned. Our biggest learning moments were in our failures. If you fall down and skin your knee and it hurt, you're gonna say, okay, maybe I gotta watch and where I'm going so I don't fall down and skin my knee, right? I mean, that's a minor injury, but and it's funny because my husband is the opposite of me. He's like, clamp down, hold them back, because he knows he can't handle if they get hurt. And so I'm always telling him, just let them go, just let them be kids, it's okay. If they do get hurt, like, we can kiss them better. Oh, still on there? Still on? Yeah, 5 more minutes. Go on. Okay.
Where do you see Health Haven Clinic in the next 5 years?
I would love Health Haven Clinic to just be full. That's what I want. I've got 4 treatment rooms, and I would like all 4 treatment rooms to have practitioners like 7 days a week and patients 7 days a week. Not me personally. I don't want to treat 7 days a week, but I would like it to be just full to the brim, busy, and lots of inter-referring going on. So the acupuncturist is sending patients to me and I'm sending it to them, and we're sending it to the massage therapist, and just this like really busy, happy family going on in that clinic I want the patients in there to be seeing many people and just having everybody thriving and moving closer towards their own optimal health.
That's awesome. What about you personally?
Well, 5 years, I'm still young. So I'd like to still be practicing. In 5 years, I mean, what I really like is just to have a little bit more time and maybe a little bit more financial freedom I love traveling. So I would like to be able to be going on some really cool, interesting trips, not just like going to like an all-inclusive place and sitting my butt down on the beach, which is nice, but I'd like to do some like adventure trips with my kids. I like doing all sorts of fun things. So like if I'm going to Costa Rica, I want to be going and zip lining through there and trekking the jungle and stuff like that versus like just the lazy vacation, and to see lots of different parts of the world. I've been lucky to see a lot, but I would like to give that to my kids and my family. So traveling is a huge thing for me.
Cool. Where can people find more about you?
Well, Health Haven is sort of all over the place. If you in our social media is my_health_haven. That's Facebook and Instagram. We have healthhavenclinic.com is our website. And then I also have my own personal profiles up in LinkedIn and all that stuff. So anywhere there, you can find us. Health Haven, just, I guess, specify Toronto if you're going to do a Google search, because I've heard there's one in Ottawa and one in London, England, or something. Somewhere in England, there's also a Health Haven. So, and yeah, anyway, I'm very open. If anyone wants to just connect like personally with me, I've got drjordanna@gmail.com is my email, and anyone can feel free to email me there. Doctor being DR, and then Jordanna is JORDANNA. Don't forget the double N, because the double N, it makes the difference. I have people send it to the single end version of me, and those just never reach me.
We will post all your links with the show notes so people have easy access to you and your content and your practice.
Oh, fantastic. And if anyone in the Toronto area, we're always looking for wonderful healthcare practitioners. I'm open to all healthcare practitioners. So my goal is to fill up the clinic. So if you are looking for a place to practice massage or acupuncture, osteopathy, physiotherapy, anything at all, we're very, very open to building our family up.
Awesome. Any final thoughts?
I just want to encourage everyone out there to really strive for health. There is nothing, we are all so stressed. We have so much pollution, political strife, natural disaster. Like there's just so much in this world that can be perceived as negative. And I just think having personal health is so important to being able to deal with all that. So both all nutrition plus working out plus having any kind of physical health care practitioner where you can go when you are having issues, very important. Don't leave things. Like when your body talks to you and says there's something wrong, listen to it, take care of it right away, because things just get worse. And actually the worst part about that is sometimes things get very silent before they get really loud. So if you have a little bit of noise, don't ignore it. Get the help you need. And then, be in connection. No matter what, whether we're isolated or not, talk to people. Make sure you have at least one person in your life who you can share your woes with, because it really helps us all feel a lot better just to get it out. Anything stuck inside and festering is just not good.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for everything that you do. You do offer quite a bit for, for a chiropractic practice. I mean, not too many chiropractors offer all the stuff that you do. So I'm grateful that you've expanded past just physical stuff and you look at other stuff. We need more of that in this world. So thank you.
I agree. And thank you for saying that. I'm just super passionate about helping human beings be more healthy and happy and have their best lives possible. And if I can help facilitate that in any way, I'd rather go beyond the chiropractic and touch people that way and empower people to help themselves too. That's a huge thing for me. I don't want somebody having to come see me for the rest of their lives. That's never my goal. My as much as having long-term wellness patients is lovely, but I want people to take care of themselves to the point where they don't need me. And then I can just, be someone who helped them along their journey. And really from that, I will be more rich than any money could ever give me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Again, I appreciate you for all the stuff that you're doing. This is great. It's absolutely wonderful.
Thanks. Well, thank you for interviewing me. This was really fun. I had a great time.
Awesome. Going through hard times is just a test. what you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world.